Yharnam is a city said to be cursed, infamous for its local affliction, the Scourge of the Beast. The Scourge erodes reason until man becomes beast, and at night the hunters track down these inhuman creatures. Though after roaming the streets night after night to rid the city of beasts, even the denizens themselves eventually take on a crazed and demented look that is so commonplace it has been called the Yharnam visage. Intoxicated by the thrill of hunting, the line between man and beast blurs, and the more one kills, the more monstrous they become. Peer deep into their clouded eyes and you will find it impossible to tell the difference between hunter and beast any longer. There are two major factions of hunters in Yharnam, each descending from a founding figure. The earlier workshop hunters were established by German, and the later healing church hunters were established by Ludwig. Within these two factions, there are sub-factions with unique hunting philosophies symbolized by special badges. The powder kegs that descend from German's tradition are eccentrics, favoring complex design and explosive weaponry, while the holy blades that descend from Ludwig's tradition are what remains of an ancient line of heroes that fashioned themselves after knights of old. Though what distinguishes workshop hunters from church hunters most is not how they hunt, but how they fit into Yharnam's culture. At the heart of Yharnam life is their special blood, and the blood is controlled by the healing church. In this city, more blood is produced than alcohol, as the former is more intoxicating. So naturally the church has amassed unparalleled amounts of power and influence in the city that extends far beyond the workshop hunters and simple beast hunting.
The church controls all knowledge on blood ministration and all varieties of blood.
The healing church organizes itself hierarchically with vicars that head the church, executioner masters, captains of the church hunters, high-ranking clerics, specialist doctors, and so on. They all serve the church and its ambitions, and in belonging to the institution, their hunters have a share in the power of the church. By contrast, workshop hunters organize themselves more loosely, like craftsmen that are members of a guild, with allies, partners, and apprentices. And the workshop as an institution exists for the hunting trade and nothing else. Beyond the hunt, it has no influence on the culture of the city, whereas the church shows its cultural influence across the whole of the city with cathedrals and chapels. Workshop hunters only have German's workshop, and eventually that would stop receiving visitors too. After the burning of Old Yharnam, the workshop hunters began to disappear from the city streets, and gradually their guild was forgotten. German's workshop was abandoned, and few recall their hunters' badges today. Whatever workshop hunters can still be found in Yharnam are scattered relics of a previous age when hunters were more mercenary than minister.
Today, most ministers don't recall the hunters, but they have much to offer you.
For the church, the hunt is a kind of surgical procedure performed by hunters. In their eyes, beasthood is a kind of cancer that threatens to spread disease through the body of the city until it is excised. But beasthood lurks deep within the frames of men, and while cleansing the tarnished streets of Yharnam, the clergy themselves begin to show their own true nature. Swept up in the exhilaration of the hunt, beasthood begins to awaken within the church hunters, and their following transformations are the most grotesque of them all. There are old stories in Yharnam that claim the noble clergy eventually become horrific monstrosities. In the Future Press Drained of Blood interview, Miyazaki explains why. Humans have a basic sense of humanity which is in conflict with the urge to become a beast. This sense of humanity acts as a kind of shackle holding back the urge to transform as long as their humanity is unyielding, so that only an overwhelming urge to become a beast could break it. What Miyazaki calls a struggle between two urges in this interview can be simplified further. Devout clerics repress their beasthood for longer than anyone else, and their beasthood grows until it is overwhelming. The result is a cleric beast. The holier the man, the more horrific a beast he becomes. Miyazaki goes on to explain the cleric, and not the cleric beast, is the most fearsome beast of all.
Not a pretty sight, is it? The true face of the blood-worshipping, beast-purging, healing church.
When someone is touched by the scourge, their eyes decay and their pupils begin to collapse. Through murky eyes, they begin to see their own sickness all around them. Projecting their own beasthood onto normal people who are unaffected by the scourge, they struggle to distinguish between man and beast. Riddled with disease, hunters continue to stalk the city streets in search of a beast to hunt, or at least someone who they mistake for being a beast. Within a side street of the Cathedral Ward, you can knock on doors and talk to some of the ward's residents. They assume that you're a Healing Church hunter, so they put on some gratitude for the church and encourage you. Clerics in black attire not only cleanse the city of beasts, but dispose of Yharnamites who they feel may become them, whether or not they're actually showing symptoms of beasthood. For this reason, the garb of this type of hunter is a symbol of fear and a type of madness that's peculiar to Yharnam. Hearing a knock on the door on the night of the hunt is a threat for a Yharnamite, because healthy or not, there's no guarantee of safety when the judge of your beasthood is a terrible beast themselves, and can only see themselves in you.
It's all your fault!
Self-hatred and projection go hand in hand in Yharnam. When one notices the beast within, it can be seen in the face of every Yharnamite. As page 196 reads in the Old Hunter's Guide, it is awareness of his own inner beast that led Gascoigne to view regular humans as beasts.
Too proud to show your true face, eh?
Volta exemplifies this dynamic. He ate a beast and took impurity into himself, and now to him the world seems filthy and riddled with vermin.
You are a hunter, and we'll see soon enough that on a night of the hunt, no, on any night, nothing out there deserves to live.
And when the beast speaks for himself, the suspicious beggar diminishes his own beasthood and projects a worse form onto the hunter.
You call me a beast? A beast? What would you know? You drink the blood of half the town, and now this. And you talk of beasts. You hunters are the real killers.
White Church hunters have to be understood a little differently to Black Church hunters. With Black Church hunters, the description of their attire gives us a pretty strong foundation for understanding what they do. Though with White Church hunters, their attire is much more vague. We're not told what they do so much as how they think and what they're interested in. So we're going to change gears and do a little investigation. What is made clear is that they're higher rank than Black Church hunters, their focus is on experimentation relating to the blood and the scourge, and we know their view of medicine is that it's for research and not healing. We can also understand that they're willing to expose themselves or other people to sickness in order to obtain certain kinds of knowledge. From this, it can be assumed that they use medicine to conduct experiments relating to the blood and the scourge. And as long as they learn from their experiments, affliction with disease is justified in their eyes. That's simple enough, but the challenge is finding this story represented in the game, and for that we need to consider a few different sources of information and see what kind of picture they paint when taken together. First, we should look at where White Church attire is found. It's kind of on the outskirts of the Forbidden Woods, on top of someone's roof. Nearby is a cave that leads to Yosefka's clinic, and a ruined shack with the Forbidden Beast or Hunter tool. Below is a building that contains blue elixir, which is used by high ministers of the church in what are referred to as strange experiments. White Church hunters are referred to as special and high-ranking, so it makes sense that blue elixir would be found so close to the White Church attire. So far, this only seems like an individual White Church hunter who is in the Forbidden Woods for some reason. But in the description for the Butcher set, there's a line about how the Madaras twins became hunters and dissected their beast prey in order to support the villagers in their forbidden research. This description pairs with the White Church hunters quite nicely. They specialize in the Scourge, making beast dissection something of interest. They're conducting research, and White Church attire is found in a village in the Forbidden Woods, meaning that White Church hunters are probably the villagers conducting this research. The only problem is, why are they out here and why is their research forbidden if they're high-ranking doctors, and the Healing Church make the law? Well, outside of the game and not even available on Sony's website anymore is the English Bestiary, and one of the entries is about the Forbidden Woods. It refers to a settlement for those driven out of the city. Presumably the settlement here refers to the village of the White Church hunters. Whether Yanamites drove the White Church hunters out of the city because they were conducting forbidden research, or they were behind an outbreak of disease and their research was later forbidden after having been driven out, is left unclear. This state of affairs with White Church hunters banished from the city poses a problem for their research. Black Church hunters need beasts to hunt, but White Church hunters need patience to study, and they've been cut off from the population of Yanamites. This is why it should be no surprise that to one side of the village in the Forbidden Woods, there's a secret passage back into Yharnam leading to Yosefka's clinic, where a White Church hunter hopes to find new and healthy patients.
Let me ask you a small kindness. You're soon off to hunt, I presume? Then, if you find any survivors, tell them to seek Yosefka's clinic. Upon my Hippocratic oath, if they are yet human, I will look after them. Perhaps even cure them. This sickness, these beasts, they are not to be feared.
Imposter Yosefka is characteristic of how White Church hunters operate in Yharnam. Giving herself out as a healer, she asks the hunter to send her patients so that she can keep them safe from the hunt and treat them for the Scourge. Though true to the work of the Healing Church, what's waiting behind closed doors is not healing, but dubious experiments similar to those found in the research hall. Once the hunter makes their way into the back of the clinic, Imposter Yosefka's real work is revealed. What survivors were sent to her for shelter and healing have been transformed into celestial emissaries for the sake of her research. Once confronted, so long as the hunter leaves, she takes it as understanding the importance of her research, and when you speak to her again through the clinic door, she's more open about what she's really doing.
There aren't many humans left, I know, but find me every last one you can. We must find a way to surpass our own stupidity. You're one of the bright ones. Don't you see how much this means?